Joanna, your busy body giving me life, oh, hey life, hey. Why you do me like Joanna, Joanna? Why you do me like Joanna, Joanna?
Hey y'all, it's your favorite black ass cousin back for another episode of the official Conscious Kingdom podcast. This is Freedom. Thank you so much for tuning in each time that you guys tune in, every time that you like, every time that you share, every time that you comment, every review that you leave is helping to further this podcast. It makes it easier for other people to find, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. So thank you so much for your continued support. Let's get started with the show. So I know right now it's been a little weird with everything that is going on in the world, from the election to the pandemic to everything with police injustices and brutality. It's been a lot. So I'm really excited today because we do have a mental health professional coming on the show to join us as our new cousin. And I felt that it was only right to pick the word of the week this week as healing. So the word of the week, again, is healing, which can be a noun or an adjective, means to make healthy, whole, or sound, to restore to health, free from ailment, to bring to an end or conclusion, reconcile or settle. Healing is such a powerful concept. It's a powerful place to be in terms of a healing state in regards to your journey. For me, healing is so important because it is the one thing that I truly feel would cure a lot of the ailments that are in the Black community. If we were to take the time to really heal from our traumas, heal from the things that burden us, really work through those things and really find the professional help that would be needed through therapy, through journaling, through meditation, through mindfulness, through all of those things. I think that just a more conscious approach to allowing ourselves to become whole would help us in ways that are immeasurable. But healing isn't easy. It's just like with anything, it takes time and it's a journey. But the beauty of operating in a space where you want to be healed and intentionally work towards your healing, as opposed to being dormant and stagnant in the midst of your chaos and letting your chaos consume you. It's power in coming from a healed position because you won't be consumed. It allows you to think clearer. It allows you to make more sound decisions. Healing, it truly is, to me, the greatest of journeys that we can take in this human experience. And one of the best things that my therapist taught me when it comes to healing, and something that constantly keeps me motivated, when you are healed, you hear differently. So if you're coming from a place of hearing from your trauma and hearing from the self-destructive thoughts that you have, it's a lot harder to comprehend and understand and really have empathy for anyone else because you're so caught up in your own chaos. The chaos has consumed you. But when you're coming from a place of healing, it grants you it's an open book. You become a blank canvas because your streaks of depression and sadness and trauma haven't already painted the picture. So that allows you to have a greater awareness and a greater understanding, helps you to better connect with more people and to connect with yourself. This week, in the midst of everything that's going on, let's really try to put some work into our own personal healing. That is the word of the week this week. Let's go ahead and dive into our interview with our new cousin, Miss Nakia, who is a mental health advocate, and a really, really dope blogger. I hope that y'all really enjoyed this interview because I definitely did. Let's get started. Hey y'all, it's your favorite black ass cousin back for another episode, and you already know that I had to bring a cousin along this week, especially after everything that's going on in the world. We need some good family time, okay? So, the thing that I kind of love and hate about what's going on in the world right now, the thing about chaos is it requires you to tap into your consciousness. If you don't, it's going to consume you. So because of that, there are so many people being more cognizant of their mental health and just how what's really going on with them internally. And y'all know I'm a big advocate for that. So I am so excited to have our new cousin join us today. She is a mental health advocate. She is a counseling student. She is a high school administrator. She is a blogger. She is dope as fuck. Like, on top of all of that, she is the mastermind behind Brown Gurl Healing. Hey, cousin.
Hey, ooh, I love your intro.
Yes. So this is our new. So the thing is, we all family here. So we don't
I
have
love
guests. We don't have none of that. We all cousins. Just to keep that unity going. And I'm definitely glad to have you join us today.
I
If
love
you just
it.
tell everybody a little bit about, where you're from, how you got started, and what really inspired you to really dive into something that is as taboo as mental health.
Of course. So I am from Washington, D.C. I'm a Washington, D.C. native. I grew up in Northwest D.C. And I think one of the biggest things for me was that I grew up around a whole bunch of people that didn't look like me. Right.
Mm.
So I grew up in this really weird neighborhood where we were a block away from the rich folk, but we were also the block with the poor folk. Right. So it was a really interesting situation because if I ever tell somebody where I'm from, they're gonna be like, "Oh, Adams Morgan, you got money." No, I don't. I
If
don't.
you like, no, I'm Nakia. I ain't from Rattlers. Listen, let me explain
No,
some.
I work hard. Well, I ain't had no silver spoons. We had plastic. So,
Okay.
so for me, one of the biggest things was that like I grew up around a whole bunch of hustlers.
Mm,
And like everything you did was hustle to get everything, and it was like everything else was never considered, right? Like how you feeling don't matter because you got to hustle.
mm,
And I hustled my way to my idea of the top. Like I got out the hood. I went to college. I graduated from college, and that like I knew that there was something that I had to tap in when it came to your mental health, right? Like I ain't never seen nobody go to therapy unless there was something crazy. Like they was crazy. Something was crazy about them, right?
mm,
And so, I went to school and I told myself I wanted to be a psychiatrist, but then they also told me I had to go to medical school. And I was like, ooh, that's a lot of time. I don't want to do that.
yeah.
But I went to school and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna figure out a way to bring like the arts and sports and stuff like that to like some type of therapeutic outlet.
Mm,
And I couldn't get the job that I wanted, so I ended up in education. And that was like God's way of saying, like, you know what? I'm gonna bring this full circle for you. So I've been in education for the past 10 years. And one of the things that education has taught me is that so many times we have expectations for kids to just show up and they dealing with so much stuff. My first job in education was working for a educational grant for housing development in North Carolina, and those kids was dealing with some stuff. You hear me?
yeah.
Like it was like parents that said they had a parking space in the project. Sis, no, you don't. You don't got a parking space. You don't. You barely pay rent. Like chill.
Wow.
Like you fight to have a parking space and your child is failing all her classes. You got your priorities are all wrong.
Right.
Um, I'm dealing with kids who I get called in the middle of the day to come bail them out of jail because they stealing socks in the mall. And I'm like, why
Mm,
you stealing socks, baby? You don't got no socks. And she like, nah, I wanted polo socks. I was like, well, how they gonna see your socks? It's winter. She's like, well, I'm wearing slides. I said, but baby, it's winter. But
right.
I was like, oh, your mental is all messed up.
Right.
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 So I like, it was like me like constantly learning like our babies, they are effed up.
Yeah.
Like, and I got into education and it's so many, now I'm like a college career professional. And so we are expecting our kids to show up and like worry about what's happening next, like as far as next year,
Mm-hmm.
but they trying to figure out like what's happening next as in their next meal. Like they
Right.
trying to figure out whether or not, how they going to finesse coming to school wearing uniforms that ain't been washed, right? Like how they going to finesse that? Oh, I'm a lie and act like something I did, it was a fashion statement, right?
Right.
Or I'm gonna try to like, I'm just not gonna come to school because my mother, she ain't been home in a while, right? Like it was just so many things that were just coming to fruition. And I was just like, God, what are you trying to tell me? Like, and I'll be working on the stuff that I've got nothing to do with my job. Like, I remember one of my kids, she, came home to all her stuff on the porch. First thing she did was call me. And I was like,
Wow.
I was 26. I was like, what am I about to do? I don't got no money. Like, I can't take this little girl in.
Like looking at you like, I need you.
Help me.
Right.
But I was just like, and like I just like started seeing like the psychological implications of that. And like, I remember people in the building like, she's so fast because she's staying
Mm-hmm.
at her boyfriend's house. I'm like, she's staying at her boyfriend's house because she ain't got nowhere else to sleep. Like that's why but she don't feel comfortable with sharing that with you guys. She don't want to be vulnerable in that way. She don't want to tell y'all for the fourth time her mother has made them lose an apartment. Like this, she don't want to tell y'all that. And so like I just kept on like saying like this something different. Like God, this ain't it for me. And I remember going to a conference that my job paid for, and it happened to be career counselors conference, but there were a lot of like mental health counselors that were there.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like bumping into this lady, and she was, her and I were talking, and she was like, "You need to get a counseling degree. You need to become a therapist." Like, and so honestly, that's where it sparked. And I started talking to more people, and I feel like I'm always motivating my friends to like check in on their mental, right? And
Right.
one of my friends was like, "You should write that down somewhere. Like that should be a meme. That should be a quote."
Yeah.
So like I started writing, and I wanted to write a book, but I was so scared to write a book. Like I was like, "Ooh, I ain't a therapist yet, right?" And then I was like, "What if I just write a post here and there?" And then I became a blogger. Because I want people to normalize talking about mental health. Like, I mean, I felt comfortable with telling my boss today, like, "Hey, I have therapy today at 2. Do you want me to put my time in for my 2 o'clock appointment, or do you want me to just work some extra hours later in the week?" I felt comfortable with saying that because I'm normalizing that. Just like I'm saying, I gotta go to the doctor's appointment, I have to go to the
Right. You
therapist.
have to go to therapy. And I think that that's so, I think for one, with you, the impact that you are having with the children, I don't even, young adults really, because all that they have on their plate.
Listen,
Yeah, it's that like we have to get out of that mindset of like, oh, they kids, they don't know what's going on. Because I think that's probably one of the biggest detriments to our kids,
yeah,
to the young people in our lives. We think so much of, that old saying like the adults used to say back in the day, kids are to be seen, not to be heard, or and all of this.
mhm,
Like we just kind of disregard their feelings and their emotions and the things that they have going on when,
yeah,
like you said, they're expected to be these academic scholars on top of literally trying to live through survival. Like they're trying to survive,
yes,
you know?
yes,
And I think that it's beautiful that they have not only someone there for them, but someone that looks like them.
yeah.
Think that
That's
it's
it.
very important to have that Black representation, specifically with, checking in with mental health and all of that. And even at your job, seeing a Black woman to be open about therapy, because it's
Mhm.
such a taboo about it. So I definitely want to dive into that. What has your experience been with that part of it? Because while there is a shift in the paradigm currently happening, my mom is like my best friend, but that wasn't a thing for her and her friends. And to this day, it's still not to be like,
Still ain't think my
oh,
mother
therapy.
too.
Like even when I say it to some of my family members now, like, yeah, that's something me and my therapist gonna talk about. And they be like,
What
ain't nothing wrong with you. What you in therapy
right.
for? And I'm like, you might want to join me.
You might want to get the number of a good one.
So what has that been like for you? Yeah, just with other people receiving that you go and people receiving that as something that you kind of advocate for. Like how have the stigmas and the taboos kind of affected your journey?
I think one of the biggest things is like you said, right? Like family. one of the hardest group of people to tell that I was going to therapy was my family. I never forget one day I was sitting in the parking lot, waiting for therapy to start because like my therapist was like not too far from my job, and I had got there a little early. So I'm on the phone talking to my sister, and she like, "Where you at?" And I'm telling her, and she's like, "What's wrong with you?" Right? But the crazy thing about it is I had avoided saying something to her for forever,
Yeah.
because I just honestly it was hard because like how do you say that, how do you have that conversation without people judging you? And this, I mean, this is
Yeah.
clearly before I started blogging and feeling more comfortable with it. But I remember like there's so many things that people don't know about mental health, and I'm like, yeah, y'all don't understand how good it is for me to go to therapy, like how beneficial it's been for me and y'all for me to go to therapy, right? Because it ain't just me. Listen, um because like I never forget like being so not even embarrassed, but like just secretive about it, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm a heal in private,
Mm.
right? And that hence the name Brown Girl Healing, because y'all about to get all this Brown Girl Healing, and y'all
Yeah.
about to get all of this process of it, because I realized that there are so many things that have been trauma for me, right? And I didn't know how to categorize it. I just knew it happened to me, right? Um, but like for me, it was hard for me to talk about it, right? Because I'm like, well, what they gonna say,
Yeah.
right? And that's one of the biggest things that I talk about in my blog is like, people make up a lot of rules, but I mean, I don't even know who these people are, and I'm trying to abide by them.
Hmm.
And who said that you can't talk about therapy? We can talk about, we sit around talking about somebody checking out of vaginas all the time, but we can't talk about somebody making sure that our mental okay.
Talk about it
What?
all the time. There are memes about it. There are posts about it on social media. Like a Facebook post to straight be like, "You ever been to your gynecologist?" and da 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 da. Like group,
Exactly.
and it'll be 30 comments. But it's if you say, I'm really trying to deal with the trauma of me and my mother's relationship. Oh,
Somebody like, your mom beat you? Like,
like,
what?
oh my God, girl, you a screen people screenshotting you, putting you in their group text, like, y'all see what she got going on. Like it's so much. Right. Like it's like this whole like people almost treat it like it's something to, something to gossip about when it's definitely
Yes,
something that should be championed. And that's why I really love that you have the word healing. It's so much power in being
yes.
healed. One of the best things that my therapist says to me all the time, and she's a Black woman and she gives it to me very straight. Shout out
Mm-hmm.
to her. But she always says, like, because for me, when it comes to healing, I'm like, what's the beauty of being healed if ain't nobody else there with me? Like, I'm like, how, like, yeah, I'm good, but I'm still going back to the toxicity that
Yeah,
comes from da da da. And she's like, no, the difference is when you are healed, you hear different. So
yeah,
all those things
yeah,
that used to trigger you, like the old you would be stuck and be wanting to argue and feel like, oh, I gotta, do X, Y, Z. She's like, no, but
yes,
when you're truly healed, you hear different. And just to see that and be in those spaces and not be triggered and be able to identify the traumas, like it's definitely
yeah.
love. It's definitely
And
love.
sharing those experiences is so much healing for other people, right? And it allows other people the room to heal. I think that one of the biggest things that we have to sit with as Black people is that like we've been taught that there's only one way to heal, right? I think that for the longest time I thought that the only way I can get healing is through prayer, right? And
Mm,
that I'm going to talk to God and He going to fix it for me. But I had to realize that God made therapists. Like every other profession he made therapists too, because his word says you seek good counsel, right?
mm,
And I think that one of the best things about my process is that I've been able to allow people the room to talk about it and to get advice and to normalize it. Because just even people taking ownership of their name, like somebody else calling themselves a brown girl healing, because it's not just me. I'm not in this by myself, because what I want is for all of us to be healed from the stuff that we had to deal with. Like it's, like even with the pandemic, right? Like, there's these things that we say that we had to stick to, and people like, well, I've been trying to do this morning routine, and now I'm beating myself up because I ain't did the morning routine this whole time I've been in quarantine. But
yeah.
then you think about it, and you like, but how normal is it that my morning routine consists of me getting out of my bed, going to my bathroom, and coming to my living room? Like,
Right.
how normal is that, right? But then when you beat yourself up from that, that's self-destruction. You got self-destructive thoughts and behaviors. Now you sitting with that, and now you are destroying your self-concept, right? And now you don't even know what's happening because now your head hurt and you don't want to do nothing else. But you can't talk about it to nobody. So now you're just trying to deal with that on your own. And that's something that's not something that you can independently do on your own. You can read you a self-help book, but they're not talking back to you, right? And so you need somebody to help you process that.
So glad that you said that, because one thing that, like I said, while there is a shift in the paradigm happening of people are talking more about their mental health, but the thing with social media is social media puts this gloss on everything and makes it real pretty. And it's like, oh, I'm having depressive thoughts, or I'm feeling down. Oh, I'll just light a candle and I'll journal and I'm okay. It's like, for me, those are things that I do in preparation to wait for my therapy appointment. Those, like, that's not the surgery, sis. That's like putting a band-aid on the bullet wound. Like, no, you need to go to the hospital.
You
And
better hurry up. You better hurry up when you bleed out. Like, that's what it is. That's what it is.
you said that, because you're right. Like, those things are temporary fixes, but people on, like, I think with the social media craze of this whole like new, like, pseudo I'm positive, I'm healed, I'm centered, but you're typing that onto a caption in the middle of a chaotic household. Like, it's like it's all for show. So I'm so glad that, like, you see me, cousin, because that bothers me so much. It's like, yes, those are tools, those are not healing, those are not the things that are going to get you there.
Because they're just distractions. They're temporary distractions.
Right.
Because those are parts of interventions that you work through with a therapist, right? With a licensed professional counselor, right? Like that, those are parts of their intervention, right? Because as a therapist, I'm doing clinicals now. So as a therapist, I'm, working with some of my clients, and I might add journaling in there. I might say, what's that thing that makes you feel good after a long day? Right? We might add those things in there to help them process it, but you got to process those emotions. You can't just sit there and light a candle and think your day about to get better.
Right.
Like, you got to understand, like, what's happening in this moment that's making me feel this way. That's what I'm journaling about. Like, what are these prompts that I need to know? Like, what's happening? What did I talk about? Like, what is triggering this? These things are all things that you need to talk through with a therapist. I listen to a blog all the time, and she always says this is not a substitution for a relationship with a licensed professional counselor,
Yes.
because none of that stuff is like, you have to have a relationship. Because I blog about it, I talk about it, but like a lot of my tips say, now go see a therapist.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, you definitely do. And that's why I was like, oh, I definitely rock with this, because it's like, I'm gonna give you tools to help, like you said, just help. But the actual healing, you have to have that connection. And something else too, I want to just kind of see what your opinion is on it, because I'm seeing that a lot as well, especially since you said that you work with the younger generation. A lot of people are doing the social media healing tips, like the candles and the journaling and everything, or they are succumbing to self-medication, and they're pretty much numbing themselves with whatever their vices may be, alcoholism or weed, or sometimes things a lot stronger. So
mm-hmm.
I guess, what is your take on that? Like, when it comes to mental health, because I think for me, it's like, at the end of the day, alcohol is a depressant. So like, I don't really subscribe to the whole, like, you're having a rough day, light a candle and drink a whole bottle of wine. But I feel like, again, due to social media, that's kind of been treated like it's the norm as well. And to me, that's a slippery slope, because sis, your
Mm-hmm.
days could be continuous. They could be coming sequentially. So every day we gonna do the bottle of wine, like, you know what I mean? Like, so I guess for you, like, what what are some tips or advice for you if somebody does start to just slip into that kind of, I'm a self-medicating and numbness, because it's a lot of numb people out here.
I think like the biggest thing is that one of the things that we have to realize is that like all those things are temporary distractions, right?
Right.
Because after you finish the wine, after you've had your hangover, now you're dealing with the same stuff. Oh, I almost cursed. But you dealing with the same, like that stuff didn't go away. Like the crazy ass coworker that you had to deal with, but that led you to that wine,
Mm-hmm.
she's still there when you go back to work on Monday, right? Like, and so the way you reacted to that crazy coworker, it's still there because all you did was suppress it with that wine.
Yeah.
And I mean, 9 times out of 10, you're not sitting there drinking the wine and thinking like, you know what, I'm all better. Now you thinking about like,
Right.
and now you getting destructive with those thoughts. Like I'm gonna whoop her. Like I wish she like none of those things are actually fixing your problem. They're
Right.
helping you to deal with your problem, right? And these are not positive ways to deal with your problems because, like you said, it's not shifting your mood into a positive direction.
Right.
Like it's worsening your mood because this is not something that's picking you up. It's taking you down, and then it becomes if you are depending on that, then it becomes a problem, right? Like
Yeah.
because you can't deal with that unless you have a bottle of wine.
Right.
I remember like in the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of people were doing like these happy hours where they were drinking on Zoom.
Yeah, for hours.
And I was just like, one of my friends, she texted me in the middle of a Zoom and she was like, "Are you drinking water? Because you don't take shots of gin like that." I was like, "Sis, yes, I'm drinking water. I'm not sitting in my house drinking alcohol by myself. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
That's sick and sad. I'm not doing that. But I'm
And
not going to be the downer for y'all parade on somebody's birthday happy hour. But I'm not doing that. That's a problem."
yeah.
I said, just know that when I do my intake sessions for my clients, I always ask them, so when you're drinking, who are you drinking with? How often are you drinking by yourself? Because then that becomes a problem.
Yeah.
Because one of my former pastors, when I was in North Carolina, he said to me one day, he was like, "You can't. You're having a problem with being alone because you're having a problem with who you're alone with. So if you can't sit with yourself
I'm
and deal with yourself, right? You
okay.
know, like drinking that wine is just trying to figure out how do I deal with this person I'm alone with? I can't handle it. So I'm gonna just drink this wine because so now we three different people. So now I'm good, right? Like, but I think that people have to be really cognizant of what they depend on to be able to get through these situations because then it becomes a dependency that you can't let go of.
Yeah.
Like me and my friends was talking to one of my other friends about like intervention. Like, sis, you are drinking way too much.
Yeah.
Like you have gone through so much stuff and you haven't dealt with any of it. Like
Yeah.
any of it. Like you've lost so much. And grief, people like to think about grief as, somebody died, but grief is loss.
Mm-hmm.
We've lost a sense of normalcy or what we thought was normal, right? We've lost the ability to be able to separate home from work. We've lost the ability to be able to connect with people on a normal basis. Like we've lost the ability to be able to go see our elderly family members because of the risk that it could cause. We've lost so much and we're not dealing with those things, right? And when we start to rely on our self medications, like first of all, we're not experts in that area. We're not experts to be able to medicate ourselves, but we're not experts to be able to say, you know what, I can be able to manage this because I know what I'm doing. Like I can have a drink of wine or two because I enjoy wine,
Mm-hmm.
but I do know that I can't rely on wine to fix me. I
Right.
can't rely on wine to get me through. And
Right.
like,
That healing is not in that bottle, sis. It ain't at the
at the
bottom.
bottom of that,
I know you trying to see if it's at the bottom.
it's not. It's not there. It's not there. It's not there. It's at the end of the counseling session, maybe, not the end of that bottle.
In the counseling session and at the bottom of the bottle.
But and I think that so many people don't realize that, like, are not cognizant of when it becomes problematic, right?
Right.
Because social media has normalized so much stuff that don't listen, that don't make sense. That
Yeah.
don't make sense. Like, I remember like telling one of my girlfriends I wasn't drinking, and she thought that I was pregnant, and I was like, no. Yes, I'm not pregnant. But it was really weird because what she didn't realize is that like I was having a really, really rough week. And I had like cried a lot that week. And I was like, you know what? If I drink alcohol, I'm gonna sit here with y'all and cry.
Yeah.
I'm not helping it. Like, no, I want to be happy. So I'm not about to drink
Right.
because this alcohol about to bring on these tears. What I'm
Right.
talking about. I don't know. I don't know. So, and she was just like, I was like, I just want to enjoy myself. And I think that we've tied in like wine and alcohol and all these things to like a good time and fixing our problems, and it's not. And that's how people become alcoholics.
Yeah.
That's how people become addicted to drugs, because now they can't function without it.
Right.
Like that person who has a bottle of wine every day is now a functioning alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't admit it because they don't know how to recognize that, right?
And that's
So
the thing that makes it difficult, because they're functioning. It's like,
yeah,
alcoholic. I just went to work today. I just wrote a paper for school. I just da 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 da. It's like, you did, yeah, but
and when you get home from work, what you doing? Getting
right.
a bottle of wine. Like you leave it. Like my coworkers that like they go to happy hour all the time after a crazy week, and I'm just like, I'm gonna sleep it off. I need to sleep. Like, and it's just like, Amy, so you don't want to hang out with us? I mean, technically, but whatever, that's a different topic. But no, I don't want to get drunk to talk about work.
To because I love the duality of who you are. Like, I love that it's like, yes, I do have my religious beliefs. Yes, you even referenced your pastor earlier, but it's like, but I still know the importance and the significance of going to a licensed professional for my mental health. And I've started to see a lot of that where it's like, um, I have Jesus, that's all that I need. And it's like t-shirts and, different groups and things that I come across. And even when someone within those social circles will even mention therapy, it's like shunned, like, they're shunned. And you kind of mentioned it earlier. You said, God created that profession as well. Um, with your particular religious background, like, do you feel like it is, how do you think the Black church would benefit from actually incorporating more of an emphasis on mental health, as opposed to treating it kind of like it's a deterrent from your connection to God or
Yeah.
Jesus and what you believe in?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that I have to say is, and shout out to my church, is that like you have to recognize that there is a difference between having a relationship with God and having a relationship with a licensed professional counselor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that we have so long been accustomed, or we've been trained to think that you only go to these professionals if you're crazy. But I think one of the things is that like if you think about church hurt, right? That's a topic that we all know in the Black church, right?
Mm-hmm.
If something that happened that you agreed with in church, now you hurt and you don't want to go back to that church, or you hurt and you don't want to ever go back to church again. But the reality of it is there's some emotions that you need to process. Like, why did that pastor doing X, Y, and Z let you down? Because, you know, I'm realizing that like maybe it's your relationship with men. Maybe it's that every man in your life that you ever honored and praised has always let you down. So when he did that one thing wrong, now you like, you know what, F church, I ain't never going back.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not realizing that this man is human. He might not say everything that you agree with. He might say something that stir up some emotions in you. So now you're hurt. And
Yeah.
now you're not ever going back to church. I think that one of the things that I love about my church is that they have a lot of ministries that are around mental health. They have a lot of ministries that support that. They have some, members of the church who are licensed professional counselors who talk about this stuff, right? Like one of, our youth minister, our youth minister at my church, his wife is a licensed professional counselor. And so she talks about that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not a taboo topic. And I attend a pretty large church. And so being able to like have that available for the masses to hear is definitely beneficial, because now you feel comfortable with even saying that to your church family. Now
Right.
you feel comfortable to even, seeking counsel to be able to say, you know what, I'm dealing with this. Like, what do you think? Um, but I think that for so long we've thought that we can only get through these things through God. Like, I'm gonna just pray and he gonna help me out of this, right? But one, a lot of times we're praying and we're not listening. Sometimes God says, I'm going to connect you with somebody that's going to help you through this, right? That's going to help you to process this, because we so many times depend on what's written in the Bible that sometimes we don't even know how to we don't even know how to translate, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
and it's so hard for us to like try to like, God, what you say about depression? You go to the Bible and you be like, all right, so it was two goats and like, like what's behind this antidote? How am I gonna do this? Right. But then like you go to a therapist and she's like, like I'll give an example from one of my clients, right? My client says that he had this fear, like he related something to like if the police was following him. Now, not mind you, this not even a black man, it's an Asian man.
Wow.
Like he's saying that his fear that he had in his job was similar to when a police officer was following you, and you ain't did nothing wrong, but you driving and you like, okay, I can't do nothing wrong now, right? And so you're so focused on not doing nothing wrong, and now you missed the stop sign. Now he's pulling you over, right? Because you're not even focused on what you need to be focused on. You focus on that, right? And so like so many times what we don't realize is that like our way of thinking needs to be processed with somebody, right? And it doesn't always have to be from somebody who's like, a leader in the church. Like it doesn't always have to be that person. And I think that so many times that church hurt is real. Yeah. Church hurt is so real. And so when we are hurt by the church, we don't realize that's what we need to be healing from. Yeah. Like but there are people that know somebody that's been raped by somebody in clergy. And so like now they like, what, church ain't it for me. It ain't it. And so now you don't have a relationship with the church because you've never processed what that is for you. Right. And so I think to circle back around to the original question, I think that, we have to, as Christians, talk about it more and talk about how our faith links in with that. Because I'm not a Christian that just relies solely on, what the 66 books of the Bible says about how I should handle this, or whatever the pastor says how I should handle this. Because my pastor encourages us to do things like that. Like, you need a lawyer, you going through some stuff, get you a lawyer. You going through some stuff, get you a counselor. And so you need to understand that it's not something that you can do alone. Like processing the emotions and figuring out why you have these kind of behaviors and why your cultural context is the way it is and why your worldview is the way it is because you have dealt with some stuff. You have some trauma that you have never processed. Like, I didn't realize that some things that I went through was the reason why I treat men the way I treat them.
And I actually want to dive into that because that's the thing, especially with dating in this area.
As in,
I'm sure I feel like every woman everywhere probably feels like that. Y'all don't mind that? Somebody is and they safe, all right? This is 2020 now, y'all. It's 2020. I can't be in the studio. It's 2020. All right. But so yeah, when it comes to relationships, how is that for you? Because I feel like if I, had your wealth of knowledge, I would just be assessing every man like, oh, so you got some of these.
Listen, cousin, okay? I just, if we're being honest, because we're family, I just came from a date, right?
Okay.
And it was a first date. Okay. And he knows that I'm brown girl healing. And so, one, he was just like, I just feel like you overthink stuff. I said, no, that's not what I do. I don't overthink. I think that I think in proper portions because like I'm processing this. But what I had to realize is that a lot of the trauma that I had been dealing with in relationships was showing up in other relationships and I had never dealt with it, right? Like I had some childhood trauma that like really screwed me up. And I didn't realize it until like I started processing it as an adult. And I'm like, why am I like this? Like I'd never really had a man to show me how a man is supposed to treat me. Like, I had uncles, but my uncles, most of my uncles are womanizers, right? Like, I remember telling my uncle one day, he asked me, was I gay? Because I ain't bring a man around the family since high school. I said, because I'm trying to be like y'all. Do y'all not realize that? Yeah. I was like, because every Thanksgiving y'all bring another woman. Like that's like,
that part.
I can't keep up.
Right. Don't want to talk about that though. Nobody want to talk about that.
Like, I'm like, and I wrote about it in one of my blogs, like every Thanksgiving, my cousins had a different woman, like every Thanksgiving. And I was like, we saw the same woman twice in a row for one of my cousins. I was like, oh, you getting married. Right. Like, that's gotta be it.
Your life.
But I think that for so many times we don't realize how all of that stuff plays a part in like how we process stuff, right? In relationships. But I process what people say. I process what I say. I process the emotions that happen. I process the connections. Because one of the biggest things is that like I think that so many times people say don't bring your old stuff in your new relationship. But you gotta learn, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
one of the examples I gave the guy that I went on a date with today, I told him, I was like, because he said that I can't bring my past relationship stuff into a new relationship. And I said, but listen, as a child, there was somebody that told you don't touch that stove, right? But I'm
Okay.
pretty sure you touched it anyway, right? You touched it, and then you found out that it burnt. You found that it burnt. So now you like, all right, what I'm gonna do now? I still wanted to touch it because I'm exploring, right, as a child. So now you're doing different things, right? But then eventually you learn maybe I should just put on the oven mitt. Like maybe I should touch the pot with like you learning stuff. So you're not gonna forget what you had to deal with before. You're not forgetting the remnants of the hot stove when it touched your bare hand and now you got the blister. Like you're not forgetting that. You
Right.
bringing that into like that old experience, you bringing that into now because you've learned from that, right? And I think so many times men don't like to be analyzed and they don't like you to read them for their filth. Okay.
Oh,
Um,
never, never.
because you know, and then we internalize that because we don't want to be lonely. We don't want to be single. Like that is like the Black woman's curse. If
Right.
you was
Like, oh,
single
she can't keep a man, she can't get a man, she can't keep a man. Like,
and don't be loved by many people because they're gonna say, "What's wrong with you? You
right.
so
Like, oh,
perfect. Why are you single?"
you so successful, you so educated, like
I think that is the worst fake compliment ever.
ever.
Like, don't tell me that you don't understand why I'm single. Me neither. Like, we figuring this out together, sis, because I'm trying to figure out.
We're
Like, I
trying
don't
to
know.
put the equation together.
But I think that so many times, like, men don't allow you to be able to, like, really feel what's going on, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, and in your, like, I process these things now. And I told myself, and it's just recently, like, I told myself, like, don't put yourself in situations that you already know is going to trigger your trauma. It's
Mm,
going to allow you to subject yourself to things that are detrimental to your self-concept. Because what I realized that I cannot allow people to dictate who I am in a relationship. Like I'm going to be who I am. Am I going to be stubborn to the fact where I can't learn from you? No, but I'm going to be who I am, and you're not going to. I'm not going to allow you to destroy who I am. Like I can't allow that because I'm so submissive to wanting to be in a relationship. Like I'm like, you know what, babe, whatever you say, I'm gonna go with it, even though it's hurting me internally. Like even though it's pulling me away from all of my friends, even though it's pulling me away from my dreams and my goals and my aspirations. Like even though because we've been trained to think that a part of a Black woman's success is a marriage, 2.5 kids, the white picket fence, all that. Like we've been trained to think that
mm-hmm.
a part of our success is tied into us being married. So we just willing to risk it all for that. But we subject ourselves to being in relationships that tear us down mentally. And
Absolutely.
then like now we don't know why we act like this in relationships. We don't know why we don't have any more friends
Mm-hmm.
because this man then told you to say like it's just all these things. But for me, I think for me, the biggest things is that like I don't listen, I ain't going for your mess because I'm gonna sit there and say, well, why did you say that?
Right.
Like, well, that's interesting because I don't feel vibes because that's not what I do. Like we we,
But this like the beauty of all that she's saying right now is the same vibes that she gives on Brown Girl Healing. And one thing that I love that you do is like your weekly posts with the different it like a lot of pages that talk about on social media that talk about healing or like, oh, I'm a mental health page, oh, this is all about, be a better you, like be a better all of this, like a lot of it is just marketing. But I love that with the posts that you're generating, like the actual content that you create, it's giving actual gems that are beneficial. Like I love the exercise that you put up about affirmations. I feel like with that
yeah,
affirmation becomes sort of like a buzzword. It's like, oh yeah, tell yourself affirmations. And everybody just thinks it's like, I'm pretty, I'm smart, you is kind, you is, what she said,
You
you
was
is smart,
important.
and you
You
is
was kind. You was smart. You was important.
I love the way that you presented that, because you were, really who are you? Like who, like it's like, let's really dive deeper than the surface of you is kind.
Because I think so many times what we don't realize is that like a part of who we are is who we tell ourselves we are, right? Because we've been subjected to say like, okay, I'm smart, I'm kind, but like that's not what I need to tell myself. I know I'm nice to people. That's my problem now, right? Like, but I think that like for me, like my affirmations don't look like nobody else's affirmations. Like I'm not getting that from anybody else. Like sometimes I have to remind myself, like, sis, you a boss. Like, and like you are healthy, you are whole. Like, and I literally it's not a thing where I'm like repeating something every day. Like I'm telling myself, sometimes I have to remind myself, like, you know what? That was challenging, sis. But you are, right? Because we have to make sure that what we're doing is not just because we saw it on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people all the time, like, I was talking to some high school students the other day, and I had to tell them, like, we have to use Instagram as a form of inspiration and not validation, because like we allow these things to be like, okay, this is the way it's supposed to be. I'm sticking to that, and that's my goal, right? But like it's like inspiring you to be like, you know what? I don't want you to say my affirmations. That's why I'm not telling you. Like outside of me saying I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm whole, I'm not telling you everything that I'm telling myself, right? Because it's
Right.
me and myself, right? I want you to figure out what it is that you're telling yourself. Like I'm not telling you what to tell yourself. I'm asking you, what do you need to tell yourself in order to get back up?
Right.
Like those are the things. And I think that, I mean, to your point about like how Instagram is, I think so many times we allow ourselves to succumb to Instagram standards, right? Like, you know, I love Instagram, probably too much. But
No,
I
the
think,
positives of it is lit. Like I love it
yeah,
too.
yeah, like I mean, one of my homegirls, she needs to become an influencer. But one of my homegirls from college, like, sis be having me dying. I go to her page just so I can see something funny. Like every time I get to social media, she might have 20 things on it, but I'm going through all of them because I'm pretty sure at least 10 of them funny.
Right.
But I think that so many times we're like, you may see a post and you're like, you know what? That's the way I need to live now. Or
Mm-hmm.
that's the way I handle it. That's the way it is now. Okay, like to your point. Okay, let me go buy some candles. Like, no, sis, do you even use candles? Like, no,
You go to
no.
people's store and you don't need like candles.
Now you're like, well, my house smell like that because you thought you was healing with them candles.
Right.
Like, but it's like one of those things where I think that one of the things that I feel like is the beauty of what I'm doing, is that like I'm not telling you something that I'm not going through. Like Nakia be having some messed up days. Nakia really, goes through it sometimes. Like Nakia will find herself comparing. Like I was talking about comparisons the other day. Like I was jogging and I was mad because people was passing me, and I was like, sis, you're not running fast enough. Like I had that moment with myself, and in that moment, I had to stop and write that down in my notes. I was like, I need to share this with the people because they need to know that we all dealing with this, and we got to figure out how to wait. We got to figure a way to stop doing that, right? But
And
so
it's
many times
because
people,
in that, even with you sharing that, you said like you had broke your ankle. I think you said
mm-hmm,
like a
yep,
broken ankle, and
yep.
you ain't sprinting, and you like, I need to do better. And it's like,
Listen, because social media told me I needed to do better, right?
right.
Because because somebody said you used to be so small. I
See?
know I was sitting on my behind for 5 months, and it was just like, one of those things where I had to realize is that like there's so much. One of my therapists told me there's so much power in your story. There's
Absolutely.
so much power in you like not keeping that to yourself, like sharing that with somebody else. Um, because like I remember early in the pandemic, I was like walking around here looking a hot mess because there wasn't nobody seeing me.
Right.
Okay, nobody saw me. But I was like, why do you feel this way, Nikki? You feel really bad. Like this is before I started blogging, and I remember like waking up one day and was like, do your hair. That's it. Like, because I realized I get my hair done on a regular and my hairstylist wasn't working. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how to do my own hair. I don't know how to do my own hair. So, you know, and so like, it takes a lot of time for me to do my own hair, but I had to invest that time in myself, get up, take a shower, wash my hair,
Right.
blow dry my hair, straighten my hair, put the right products in my hair, take my time. It took a long time for me to curl it, but when I did it,
Mm-hmm.
cousin, I felt good. I felt good, and I shared that with people to let them know, like I have been like wondering why I'm sitting in the dark because I didn't like the way I was looking, and I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't used to seeing myself like that, right? But I shared that with people because somebody else might be going through that, and I'm not doing this so that you could be like,
I had the same thing happen to me when it comes to clutter. You know how like when you
mm,
feeling down, and not that your house becomes like a hoarder house, but it's like I might not wash this dish today. Oh,
yes,
I might just let
yes,
it just stay right there. And the days keep going on and on and on, and it's just like you just keep walking by the shirts, keep walking by the glass, and it's like these little piles of little clutter just start to build up on you, and
yes,
it's like since you're not even sad, you just need to clean up. Just get up, clean up, like clean
yes,
up. Like you said, shower, do a little self love, something as simple.
yes.
Take a shower and moisturize.
Because I was ashy and my hair was dry.
That's it. I was sad because my knuckles.
Right.
And when I put that shea butter on it,
How things changed. You
like, you know what? It isn't a bad day. It is going to turn
know
around.
what? I actually am having a good day. Now I want people to see me. Let me get on social media so y'all can see this hair because I ain't
Right.
got nowhere to go. But but yeah, I think that it's so. And I mean, even to your point about the clutter in your house, like it may not be that got tons of trash, but you're not used to function like that because just like your mind with going to therapy, right? You're like decluttering from all these past experiences, these past memories, and it's just all they house in your head. And now you all over the place. You're like, I can't do nothing. And the same thing with your house, right? Like, those times where my house might not be as clean as I like it to be, and I'm looking around like, what is how long ago did I wash them clothes? Why are they still in that basket? Right. And like,
You're like a monster of dirty clothes just follow me around my apartment like, bro, I'm not washing y'all yet. But then
but
it's
it's like that stuff makes you not want to do anything. Like you just like, I'm gonna just avoid all of it. Like even with like my homework, I just be like, oh, I got 7 assignments too. I'm not gonna do none of them.
right.
But it's like you avoid stuff because you don't want to deal with like all the cleanup that happens. And I mean, that's a one of my first analogies with therapy is that one of my homegirls, she's a closet organizer, and she came over, she was like, when the last time you wore this dress? Can you fit this dress? Why is it still here? Because we allow ourselves to just keep holding on to stuff for whatever sentimental value or whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just hold on and just clutter, clutter, clutter. And now, like, I don't even want to touch my closet because there's too much stuff in there. Right.
Right.
And that's what happens in your house. That's what happens, what I'm saying? Like all that stuff like happens and it catches up with you. So you got to do something about it. Like, do something that makes you feel good, but understand like how you operate. Like, if you can't operate in a mess, you got to clean up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do y'all hear all of this greatness that's right here? Listen, tell us what can the people get, like where they can find you to get more of this, and also what does Brown Girl Healing have coming up so where we can support you, uplift you, because all that you are doing, just these open dialogues like this, it is truly revolutionary because like I said, I as being a country girl, part of my existence is my elders and the conversations that I have with them, the things that we are doing now, the things we talk about, the traumas that we are healing from. They didn't get that opportunity.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
everything that you're doing is so dope. Tell everybody just, what you got coming up, how they can support, like what all is going on with Brown Girl Healing.
So you could definitely follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Brown Girl Healing, and that's Brown Girl with a U, not an I. So it's Brown Girl Healing. I'm browngirlhealing.com, that same U. And then I've just got some affirmation tees and hoodies,
Yeah.
crop hoodies, because I think that it's extra affirming when you can say I wear what I want, how I want it. Um, on the website, under our shop on the website at browngirlhealing.com. And look out, come follow me, because look out, because I've been asked to do a lot of meetups and stuff like that, and give girls the opportunity to be able to talk about these things in person. So I'm in the lab on that. So hopefully I have a date coming soon. So follow me so that you can get all the details for that.
Yeah.
But that's it. I think that one of the biggest things is I want people to come on over to Brown Girl Healing so we can have this conversation. I think that it's so empowering to see other people in my comments talk about, like, sis, people I don't know, like, just sis,
I do
you
love
don't
that.
know.
It's definitely tribe vibes over there. Like,
Yes, like that, and I want people to be a part of that tribe, right? Like, I want people to be a part of that community where we're healing together, because I don't have perfect days. Like, I don't have perfect days. And but what I do know is that, like, there are ways that I can work through those rough days to be, get one step closer to my healing. And I don't want to do that alone. And I want all of us to heal together. So come join the community, browngirlhealing.com.
yes, and I promise y'all, I had commented on one of her posts to comment to Nakia. Three other people commented under me, and now we all follow each other, and now we cool.
Listen, because now because we, like you said, we cousins. Because
Vibes over there.
I mean, and I think that's one of the biggest things about the blog is that, like, now I got friends that I don't know, because I start off every blog saying, "Hey, friends," because that's my vulnerability. Because I only share this tough stuff with my friends. So now we got to be friends now that you over here.
Right.
And I love being, like, people being a part of that community that I don't even know personally. Just like, meeting you and being like, what, this is dope. I love it. Like, and then sharing it, and more people like, what, now I'm part of your community too. So come join us. I
Yes,
would love to holler at you in the comments.
yes, y'all make sure that y'all support, follow. I know you make sure you sign up for the emails and all of that, like,
Yes.
on the website. Like, get up in that email subscription list and all of that. Like, you will not be disappointed. It is very, very valuable content, very inspiring, very, for me, because that's the thing with my social media, everything that I scroll, because that's the thing, when you're, everything that you ingest is affecting you. It's not just, it's not just the hot Cheetos that you have with your sandwich. It's everything. It's what
'Cause
you listen to, what you see, what you hear, like what you hear, what you see, your thoughts. Like, Nakia said that several times today. The self-destructive thoughts, like, all of that is a part of your everyday makeup. So for me, my Instagram is things that pour into me in the shade room.
As you listen, don't right
Pour into
that
me
part. Guilty pleasures.
of the mess, which is the shade room.
Guilty
But
pleasures.
just a
But
little.
I want to give this last little bit of thing is that, like, don't be afraid to unfollow somebody, because, like, I had to realize that my social media is my empowerment, it's my inspiration, it's my outlet, it's my, comic relief. But
Yeah.
it's not for me to like listen to nonsense. Like, I'm not arguing with nobody. Like, if I honestly, we can disagree on a lot, but we ain't about to disagree on my God. Or, when it comes down to, like, my well-being, and, like, if you talking about some negative stuff about, like, stuff that's, like, having me, like, in my head, like these elections. Like, if I see somebody talking about, y'all and sharing, I'm not gonna even go there with political views, but they're sharing their political views, and they're like telling how people are stupid for doing this, and you're so gullible for, like, I'm, what, now I'm unfollowing you, and I'm okay with it. And you can unfollow me too. Like, we don't, like, I'm not tied to those things, because we have to allow ourselves to the space to be able to fill ourselves up with things that need to be in that bottle, right? Like, you don't put salt in Kool-Aid, because that's not the taste you're going for. So
Exactly.
don't do that for your social media feed. Don't do that for your, whatever you're feeding yourself. Watch what you're feeding yourself, and be okay with unfollowing somebody or removing somebody from your circle, because you got to watch what you feed yourself, because health is wealth, right? And, like, the same thing with, you don't want to feed yourself a whole bunch of fatty foods, or, you don't want to eat, pig scrap. Like, you don't want to eat these things that don't make you healthy or don't allow your body to function properly. Don't do that to your mind either. So if you need to remove yourself from somebody's follow list or, whatever it is, do that. Cause that, it can be hard on you. Cause I don't know how many people I done followed in the past 2 months. Cause it ain't okay. I'll get on here to laugh. I get on here to be inspired. I'm not getting on here to argue. I'm not doing it.
Because that negativity will permeate your psyche. You'll see it and be like, oh, they're so annoying. 5 minutes later, you're not even realizing that you're still bothered by that.
You're still annoyed by it.
Still
So you
annoyed.
know what I do? I unfollow you so I'll never be annoyed by it again.
But most people, I don't know. I'm so glad you said that because a lot of people do feel super connected. And, speaking of that, I think that's a great thing to wrap up with because of everything that's going on with this being such a digital age. The beauty of it is we are all connected via our social media accounts and all of that. But the downside of that is it is constantly so much being thrown at us. At the time of this recording, we still do not know who will be our next president. This Thursday, we airing this on a Monday. I'm not sure if we'll know by then, but this election has been weighing heavy on everyone's minds and hearts. But even beyond that, before we got to November 3rd, we were dealing with all of the protests and the pandemic, and I mean, it's just been a lot on us in this world during this time. I know it's kind of difficult to have a blanket statement for all of that, but just for the pressure, the loneliness, just the overall kind of heaviness that weighs on a lot of people connected to when it comes to those particular topics. Do you have any uplifting words or anything that any tips or any advice that you can give for everyone who may be having one of those rough days linked to everything that's going on in the world?
I think one of the biggest things is that, and I honestly have to remind myself this as well, right? Like, if you voted or didn't vote, whatever you decided to do, you did your part, right? And you can't become overly consumed with what's happening next. I think that, I had to catch myself because I kept like refreshing and saying like, okay, who did we win now? And it was so hard for me, like yesterday, because I became overly consumed with it. And I had to like take a step back and like, what do I need in these moments? And I think that we really need to create wellness plans. And it sounds like a difficult thing, but basically all it is saying like, what do I need when I'm going through a difficult time? Like for me, I know that when I'm going through a difficult time, I need people. Like I need to be around my family and friends. I need to be around somebody that's going to make me feel comforted. I need to be around somebody that's going to make me feel loved. Like, yesterday it was being with my niece. And so, we went to a jump park and, we weren't concerned with what was happening. Like we still didn't have a president, but like we was having a good time. And, that's what I needed. And of course I could have been doing a lot of things. Like I got an assignment due on Monday that I need to be working on. Right. But I needed that in that moment because like when life is thrown at you, you need to check in with yourself to see how you're going to deal with that. Right. And so many times we get saturated in the world and what's happening in the world that we forget about what's happening within ourselves. And so you need to figure out like my biggest thing is set limitations on all of it. Yeah. I'm a big proponent of like knowing what's happening in the world, but set limitations on that. Like, people that watch the news, like understand the news is cyclical. They're going to show the same thing over and over again. Yeah. So you sitting there watching it all day, every day, you not getting too much of a difference in the stories. So, give yourself a time limit. When it comes to social media, people are all talking about, the elections right now. Give yourself a time limit, but say, I'm not spending more than 2 hours on social media today. And it seems like a long time, but it goes by really fast. So I got a timer and I'm like, oh, dang it. But set the time limit and create that wellness plan and just say to yourself, what do I need in this moment? When my head is clogged up, I'll be like, you know what? I need to go run. I need to go walk. I need to go to the gym because I need that release. And so I've started to create a wellness plan that works for me and that's individualized, right? Because you can't get one offline. You really have to figure out what it is that you need. And so when you're dealing with something like you're dealing with 5 pandemics, like, it's not just COVID-19. You got racial injustice. You got these, you got the from politics, you got, all these wars against our communities. We like, it's so much.
It's a lot.
It's so much. And you got to be able to say, like, for me, I have to tap into me and say, Nakia, what do you need in this moment? All right. My last thing is that every night I've started to do something differently where I may have, look, you see this? It's my planner. And I may have all these things I said I'm going to do for the day. And all of it's not going to get done. And so before I go to bed, I write down a list. Like, I wish I would have done this today, but I'll get it done tomorrow. And like,
I love the grace and the compassion that you give yourself.
yes,
Because a lot of
that's my favorite word.
well, we don't give ourselves that. We'll give
That's
that.
my favorite word.
We'll give it easily to our friends, to our family, to people we're dating, but to
But we
ourselves,
don't give it, yes, we
man.
don't. And I have to remind people all the time, give yourself grace, because like, it's not easy. We're not dealing with something that's easy right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so many people are seeking help from people that they've never sought help from before. But like it used to be just like, you know what, I ain't get this done today. I'm gonna write it down because I'm gonna make a priority for me to get it done tomorrow. Because you didn't get it done today, you'll do it tomorrow. But now it's like, what is worrying me today? I'm putting it down on paper because I'm not going to bed with that worry. Um, because we can pray about it, but I think it's so much power with writing it down. And
Absolutely.
so, like, I write it down and be like, I'm leaving this right here on this paper. When I wake up and pick it back up, right? Pick it back up. But there's so much power in saying, you know what, this is no longer going to be a worry for me, because that can become super consuming of your thoughts, of your actions, of your bodily functions. And so, when we don't do those things, when we don't allow those things to be released from us before we go to bed, we don't allow ourselves a release from the troubles of the world. Like, we get consumed with it and we don't get stuff accomplished. And so I think that making that wellness plan, giving yourself limitations, and making sure that you are not being consumed with what's going on, and writing it down and leaving it there and picking it back up tomorrow. Um, because the worst thing is to wake up the next day because you didn't sleep, because you worrying about it. Because you worrying about what's happening with the elections, you worried about it at nighttime, you ain't changing whether or not Nevada count their votes. You can't.
Not
But
at
what you worrying about it for, right? Like, your worries ain't doing nothing but keeping you up at night. So allow it to go. Because yes, I'm concerned with these states counting their votes,
yeah.
but I can't do anything about it.
Right.
So if you can't get up, if it's not like I'm worrying about the fact that is my stove on or not, so let me get up out of my bed to turn that stove off, but I'm worrying about something I have no control over, I got to let that go.
Yeah.
So when we do those things, we tend to become more stable mentally because we're allowing ourselves the ability to let it go. And outside of just mentally, I'm learning to do a better job of letting go and let God, because you can't worry and pray about the same thing. You know what I mean? So when you let it go, you're like, God, I'm handing it over to you. I'm gonna pick it back up because it's something that I need to work on, but I'm handing it over to you right now. I'm put it on this paper, and then I'm gonna try to pick it up and see how it fits in my day tomorrow. Because we will hurt ourselves mentally, physically, emotionally, if we don't allow ourselves those limitations and that grace. Because grace is so real.
So
Like, I've cried so many times during the pandemic, and one of my friends was like, "What happened to your grace?" She had to remind me, because I say it to her all the time, because she's a parent and she's struggling with virtual learning. And I said, "Sis, you ain't a teacher. It's
right.
tough. Like, you're in marketing. Like, you got all these meetings, and now you got to teach. What is he, first grade?" I'm like, where's your grace? Where's your grace? And she's had to remind me the other day about my grace. And so all of that, the biggest thing is that you have to allow yourself that grace, and you have to allow yourself the opportunity to let go of it, and provide yourself those limitations, because you can get super consumed with it, and then now you're self-destructing and you don't even know it.
I love it. I love it. It's gonna get hard, but please give yourself some grace. I love it.
Yes, yes.
I love it. Thank you so much, cousin. This was so fun.
Fun.
This felt like a really good therapy session. I'm not gonna hold you. It really did. But I
Fun.
feel
I
so
really
nice and
love it.
light right now.
Listen, because I had therapy today, and I told her, I was like, my head feels so much better.
I'm telling you, I had a headache after my work that day. Girl. Oh, totally better. Totally better. But yes, thank you so much for just honoring us and joining the platform. I really appreciate it. For everybody, again, make sure that you follow our new cousin, Nakia. You can follow her at Brown Girl Healing. Check out the blog, follow on all social medias, platforms. Of course, I will put it in the episode descriptions. But more than anything, y'all, I think that we are all about getting that healing, doing the work just to be a better you, be conscious of who you are and what you are in this world, how you are to other people, the impact that you have on others and to yourself. Don't be self-destructive. And overall, like Nakia said, just give yourself some grace. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. This has been another episode of Freedom, the official Conscious Kingdom podcast. We are raising our frequency to get to our freedom because it's all about liberation for Black people, for our minds, just for all of this, honey. And y'all know mental health, we all about that over here. So, cousin, you got anything you want to say before we close out?
Listen, I don't know who made these rules up, but you don't got to follow them because they all fake, sis. Okay. So do you and take care of you. That's it. I think the biggest thing is just take care of you and figure out what you need to do to take care of you. Love y'all.
I love it. I love it. I love it. We love y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will do this again next week. Peace.